So.
Yep.
Welcome, everyone. We are trying something different. It's not a book and a beverage tonight. It's not Spiffbo. It's not Spacebo. This is Creature Creation, where I get to be a pain in the rear to four wonderful people. And Tim. The fourth wonderful person will be coming. He's having some difficulties. So if you don't know what we're doing, that makes all of us. But let me window. There we go. I'm going to try to share my screen here. There we go. So we are going to create a creature. We updated Colin from Colin's Corner. Could not make it because real life intruded. And we'll think about forgiving him one day. But so we have now replaced him with the inevitable Canadian, Tim McKay.
Inevitable.
I had to come up with something. I could not think of Indomitable, so I just went with it.
There we go, Indomitable Snowman, something like that.
So what we're going to do is each one of you will pick one of these columns, and you will pick one of them. If you want to pick terrain, size, strengths, weaknesses, diet, or active time. And I'm very proud of crepuscular, which means that they are only active during dawn and dusk. So I had never seen that word before in my life, and I was like, I have to include it so people think I'm smart now.
Yeah, I was like, I saw that word, and I was like, Mike, I'm not doing like prerequisites for your show because I have no idea how to do it.
So after you all pick one from each column, you each get to pick one. Then I will pick one, and then my trusty little die thing, I will roll the die to see the sixth column what it is, and then that will be our starting point. And there is Caleb, maybe coming someday soon. So let's see. Let's start it off. Who would like to pick first? And tell me what column you want. Okay, I'll do it this way. Phillip, you are first.
We need some volunteers in here.
Who's first, Mike?
You are first, Phillip. Pick a column and tell me would you want to pick the terrain, the size, the strengths, the weaknesses, the diet, or the active time for this creature you are going to create.
I'll do the diet.
Okay, and is it a carnivore, omnivore, herbivore, or a fungivore/insectivore?
It's definitely a carnivore.
Carnivore. Okay.
Nice. Off to a good start.
Phillip, and you picked carnivore.
Yes.
Okay. So we will do that. Who wants to pick the next column?
I'll go for terrain.
Okay.
And let's do caves.
Caves. All right.
I realize from my own writing I have a strange obsession with caves, despite having only been in maybe 3 in my entire life. So let's do it.
All righty.
I'll do size.
Size, okay. What size is this guy?
I'm gonna go with bear, large.
Large bear bull size. Okay. And Caleb, do you have any idea what's going on yet?
Yeah, I read the rules.
Oh, well,
earlier,
then.
so I know. I'm a
Gold
rule
star
reader.
for you.
I play too much Warhammer not to read rules.
So what would you like to pick? We got strengths, weaknesses, or active time left.
Let's do active time.
Okay.
And I'm going to do nocturnal.
Nocturnal. Well, good. It's cave, so good not to be daytime. Okay, so you know what? I'll even let you all pick. Which one of these do I get to pick strengths and weaknesses, and which one do I roll the die for?
You can pick weaknesses. Roll the die for strength.
Okay, so we're going to roll the die for strength first. You get a 3. That is telekinetic. Okay, then. And how can I screw this up? Weaknesses. Your creature emits a strong odor. So since you can't see anything, they'll smell you coming. Okay, so with the information that you have here, let's start creating a creature if we can. What do you think?
Now, before we really get into it, Are we really just giving you inspiration for your next book, or what's going on here, Mike? What's the
Yeah.
real
Are we
backstory?
getting royalties for this?
We'll see how good it is. So
Our heckler has arrived by the looks of it.
EL is here. Good. So we actually, none of these say if it's a mammal, reptile, so it's wide open. You can pick whatever kind of animal you want here for a cave. Telekinetic, emits a strong odor, the size of a bull or a bear, and a carnivore.
You know, I just rewatched Jurassic Park last night, first one. So I'm kind of in a reptile dinosaur sort of mode. I feel that could work. You know?
I was gonna say reptile.
Yeah, I was also
Let's
going to
do
say
reptile.
reptile. We're all on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so we have a reptile, a stinky reptile in the cave. It's telekinetic, so that would be interesting. So are we talking lizard, alligator? Any thoughts on this creature?
So could it be a cave that has underwater as well?
Sure.
Nice.
Like a partially submerged cave?
Works for me.
Okay. So how is it going to eat? Is it going to be one that hides and ambushes? Is it going to stalk its prey? It's big, so it needs to find big things. So it's a good idea that we have water for, like fish. I don't know too many buffalo that roam in caves.
Telekinetic feels kind of boring unless it's hunting something that has thoughts to read in the first place, right? So I could see it hunting humans for sure. And then, how does it maybe disguise its smell so that it can sneak up on them? Or does it just not care and just, run like a T-Rex through town? I don't know. So
telekinetic, it can move objects. So it can spray towards it. Not telepathy.
Telepathy. Yep, you are totally right on that. Wow. Okay.
That's why I'm here.
Never mind. A sensitive feed.
Well, EL, one of the choices is ask the audience, so you might get your wish.
Okay, I have to totally rethink this though. Now I was thinking we were talking about a mind-reading dinosaur, and now it's sort of,
So
Yeah,
I mean, it'd almost be like a frog and pull its prey towards it if it sees it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I imagine it probably has some sort of like range to its power, though, right? So maybe if it's like a sit and wait kind of predator, and like it moves rocks to like make noise to bring in prey, and then latches onto them.
Well, what is the range? Have we talked there was that movie? What was it? 3 inches or something? The telekinetic who could only move something a few inches, or are we talking?
Line of sight. It's a
line
cave.
of sight. Okay.
So let's do line of sight. That way, it's not miles.
I agree with the lure and ambush approach to it.
So reptilian ambush predator in an underwater cave system, and it pulls victim toward it, or rocks added. Okay, I think that's a reasonably good start. Do we want to throw some monkey wrenches in here now?
Let's do it.
Sure.
Okay, so this is my list, and these are the 60 monkey wrenches, of which we will choose 6 tonight. So everyone gets to pick. So Phillip, pick a column 1 through 6, pick a number, and then give me a number 1 to 10.
So 1 through 6, is it these columns up here?
No, it's columns that you can't see because I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go with 5.
Okay, and pick a number 1 to 10.
7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 is okay. You're lucky. Poor vision.
To be expected.
Okay, well, that was lucky. Now, someone else want to pick a column and then a number from the column. Tim, what's your column?
Let's do 2 and 3.
Add a weakness. So go back up to the weakness thing, and you get to pick one of those.
I feel I'm going to go with holy water. That feels strangely appropriate from my past life.
Okay. Weakness is a holy water. So how do we have to change the creature now that we know it's holy water does bad things to it, and poor vision doesn't really matter in a cave, I don't guess.
I mean,
So-
I guess we have to hope that no priest or something comes and prays over the water in the cave. That could be a problem.
So is this a design of like some evil god or something? Is that why holy water is going to affect it?
I'd
Good
say it
question.
lives in a
Need some
cave system that
backstory.
has a pathway to some sort of astral plane.
Nice.
So we're talking like the Down Under kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Can go with that.
In fact, that's the official name, the Down Under.
Perfect.
You know, as many Australians as we've interviewed here, I love that. Okay, so Tobias, anything else that you want to add to this creature so far?
I mean, can we help it out with some excellent sense of smell and hearing?
You know what? If these are only the rules that you're held to, so if it's not on that list, then you can make up whatever you want.
I'd like to give it a good sense of smell.
Okay.
Oh, that's cruel. It has a terrible odor, and now you've given it a good sense of smell.
Well,
Like Gollum.
it's some sort of fiend from a evil god, so it should suffer.
Maybe that's why it's so cruel, right?
Yeah.
That's what turned it into a monster, was its ability to smell itself. Some of it doesn't adapt. It never adapts to its own smell, and therefore it's just miserable all the time.
Okay, and I realized that I forgot. I was supposed to give you all breaks to talk about yourselves. So, Phillip, tell us about your books. Tell us about your life. Tell us about your plans this year, what stocks to buy, whatever. Just tell us something.
Well, as we discussed earlier, I'm a CPA. That's my real job. I do write. I've been writing for a few years. You can see over my shoulder here, that's my 3 books that are out. I write the Cassandra Rose series, which is a fantasy series based on a female protagonist. Probably be about 10 books or so before I'm done. And yeah, that's it. I've got I guess I'll be seeing you in August, Mike. We're going to be
Yep.
the Crash City Con again in Roanoke, Virginia.
And Cassandra Rowe, she's scared of everything and runs from anything, correct?
Cassandra, she goes through some bad stuff that hopefully makes her stronger in the end. I don't hold back much, and actually some people have been offended by it, by the stuff that's in there, telling me I need trigger warnings and things like that. So I just up it a notch when that happens. It's pretty crazy. So hopefully it doesn't offend too many people. That's not the purpose, but yeah, she's unique for sure, has some unusual powers, and centered around a evil prophecy, basically. That's the gist of the story. So yeah, I love Cassandra. She's going to be a hero, hopefully, one day.
And to complete our accounting block, Tobias, tell us about your books.
Sure. So I'm a speculative fiction author, so I write different genres, but right now I'm in the midst of a fantasy trilogy. It's the Projection series. It's urban fantasy, mainly because of setting alone, because it doesn't really fit into that first-person snarky wit sort of Dresden Files thing. It's more of a multi-POV, traditional high fantasy sort of story, but it's not so much epic as character focused on these really 4 main characters that are kind of each vying for the spotlight, although there is one main protagonist. But in a nutshell, there's these interdimensional creatures called the Projectionists that are kind of playing a game with Earth, and these 4 different characters get drawn into their game, and the characters are sort of odd. One's an insectile shapeshifter, and their species is kind of a subplot of the whole trilogy. And there's a prequel called Windland Vale, which is all about the origin story of these shapeshifters. And book number 1 is called Grave Covenant, and that's where more of the humans come into the story. And there's the main protagonist, Ridley. He's a boxer. That's kind of a subplot to his story, but basically his fiance goes missing, and it's all related to these projectionists and the game they're playing. His life gets twisted up with these insectile shapeshifters. And then there's also a young girl who loves knives, loves to throw knives in there. And then there's a second main character that's one of the insectile shapeshifters that goes down a completely different path and gets caught up with another covenant of succubi. And so she's kind of facing like demonic forces as well as in this whole game with the projectionists. So that's a projectionist trilogy. Book 2 of that just came out in May 31st.
Nice.
And the 3rd book will be out at the end of this year.
And how long is your series going to be?
This one's only 3 books, unless people want more. But it will resolve after 3 books. There might be offshoot sort of stuff. I do have plans for kind of like a universe sort of thing where you might see things pop up here and there in other series, because I'm starting a horror series as well, and I have several other standalones in the works. Some of them are sci-fi, completely different feel. And I do have a sci-fi story that's written in first person, which I've never done before. That just got accepted into an anthology that's going to be published hopefully this month.
No.
And that's going to be Minstrels in the Galaxy. So it's a sci-fi anthology, and all the stories in the anthology are based on songs by Jethro Tull. And so my story is based on the song called Fat Man, which is like a deep track from Jethro Tull. So I think I've rambled enough. So on to the next.
Okay. Well, we need to find another couple roadblocks. And Caleb, I haven't given you a chance to talk, so why don't you pick a roadblock for us? You can pick 1 to 6, but you can't pick 2 or 5.
Let's do 4.
Okay, and now pick a number 1 to 10.
8.
8. Okay, your lizard-like creature spins webs. Oh, this is just making it
Fantastic.
And Tobias, you can sabotage everyone here. Pick a number. 1, 3, or 6.
Let's go with 3.
3. Okay, now number 1 to 10.
Let's go with 9.
9. It has multiple heads.
Wow.
I love it.
I feel like these aren't real monkey. I was expecting something to really screw us up and mess with our creativity, and I'm just like, I'm liking this monster right now. This is great.
These are power-ups.
Yeah,
I know these are all helpful. I'm very disappointed. So your cave-like reptilian who can't see, but it doesn't matter because he's underground, has telekinetics to pull their things into, I guess, his webs now. He's an ambush predator. The cave system has a portal to the astral plane that's called the Down Under. Your creature has a good sense of smell because, of course, it does. It spins webs, and now it has multiple heads. Okay, so let's talk about head structure. What kind of mouth does it have? Does it have an alligator mouth? Is it, what are we talking here? Let's try to flesh out the creature now that there's only 2 left, and I can really try to screw something up.
What if it has different types of heads? Like the best type of head you could think of on each one.
Well, you're free to come up with it.
Best reptile heads we can think of. I mean, alligator. Let's go with alligator for 1.
How many heads does it have? Is it like a Cerberus?
I was thinking 3, but what does everyone else feel?
I'm fine with 3.
3 works.
3 with 3 distinct heads.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do 3 heads. Alligator. What other kind of heads does it have, Philip?
How about a toad?
There we go.
There's a wrench.
That could be the main head,
And one more. Tim or Tobias, who wants to come up with the last head?
I mean, I was good with alligator, so I feel like that's my vote. But so I don't know what the third one is.
What about like a Komodo dragon?
Ooh,
My
yeah,
man.
absolutely.
And it comes with like the poisonous spit too.
Yep.
Okay. Out of curiosity, what color is this creature?
I mean, I feel like it's from a demonic realm. I feel like it's got to be red, right?
I think red or black or something, which again, it's a cave system, so that's natural. This just not working out with any real monkey wrenches here. I'm really
It's just coming together too perfectly. I'm already thinking of.
I like red. I'm really liking the image of red.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good with red.
red scales. We'll put
Big ugly toad head alligator Komodo dragon. Like, oh yeah, this is great. Smells like hell.
And what kind of body is it? Is it a lizard body? Is what, you know, I mean, I keep envisioning it as an alligator body, but it really does not have to be this web spinning creature. I mean, it could even be a spider with scales. That's just kind of scary, really.
Yeah.
But so what do you think body wise?
About like a dragon.
Like a dragon's body?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that can at least like vaguely stand up straight and have like opposable arms and hands. So I feel like this thing wants to grab you.
Maybe something like between a dragon and a crocodile.
Okay, do you have wings or not? I'm guessing you don't have wings in a cave system. That's kind of
Thinking no
pointless.
wings, yeah.
So a dragon with no wings, is that a drake? I don't know my dragons. I'm going to put drake. And if I'm wrong, somebody can tell me I don't know my dragons, which is...
Works for me.
Okay. Well, we are... let me fill in these weaknesses. Do I really have to? Let's see. Multiple, that's not even close. We'll do that later. Okay, so I will let you all pick the number for the die, either 1 or 6 is left. Which one for the die?
1.
1, okay. And you get 7. 10, 9, 8, 7. Sloth-like speed.
Okay.
Which, again, is not a deal breaker here.
Especially now with the telekinetics, you can just pull them right in.
Yeah. Okay, and then that leaves me for the last one. Let's see here.
Huge nerd moment here, but has anyone, this is a video game reference, but did anyone here play the Star Wars and Knights of the Old Republic?
I sure did.
Yeah, okay. So I'm kind of picturing a 3-headed crate dragon at this point. And
Yeah,
I'm all freaking for it. You know?
that sounds about right, actually.
Right?
So.
You know, sloth and just still totally terrifying spits. Yeah, this is great. Man, none of these monkey wrenches are doing it for me, Mike.
I know that they really just are not. That you guys are. And this last one, there's not a lot here for me to choose. I mean, super tough skin is not what I'm going to give you. Prehensile tongue. I mean, you got a frog's tongue already. Naturally aggressive. It's a carnivore. I'm leaning towards runs when threatened. Brittle fangs, has horns. Fantastic smelling. You already volunteered. Bleeds easy. Now I'm going to have to go with runs when threatened. Ugh.
Does that ever happen?
But it never feels threatened ever.
Yeah.
So to survive the encounter, you have to charge this thing as it's pulling you towards its web. Yeah. That'll work. Wow. This is like, these were not monkey wrenches.
Yeah, no, this is a total powerhouse. This is like the final boss, This is the end of the book, Sanderson, Sanderlanche moment. This is what you face, and you barely manage to survive.
I mean, I have things like blind or has a turtle shell, but no, we don't pick any of those.
Brittle fangs. I heard that. Okay, that would be a bit of a wrench, right? Depending. I mean, the toad head would probably be fine, but brittle fangs feels like enough of an impediment,
Yeah, especially considering like this whole thing is it wants to eat. So
Yeah,
if it wants to eat, has brittle fangs. That probably won't be good.
that's good. That hurt like that. Cracked teeth hurt like hell.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do brittle fangs, and you talk me into it.
You're
Um,
welcome.
okay, so these are our notes so far. So, what is its food source in this cave system?
Hmm.
Maybe things that live in the water and anything else they can lure there and pull in with its telekinesis.
Humans, fish, whatever. Big things, though, not bugs.
Yeah.
How does this thing move? I have all kinds of things about limiting how it can move, and of course, we hit none of those. So, is it a quadruped? Is it two legs? What are we looking at here? We never even went through appendages.
I think we said something about it being able to stand up at one point, but it's a cave, so I still imagine it using all fours. Good amount of
Yeah,
the
like
time.
it uses all fours, but it can use two when needed.
Yeah.
Stands up. Okay.
You can definitely swim, right?
Yeah, definitely is going to have to swim. Okay, how's it get its food? We got that covered in spades.
Yeah.
When does this sleep? Is it? I mean, I guess it's a cave. It doesn't really matter if it's nocturnal or what. So that doesn't matter. Does it have a nest, a lair? What kind of? Or does it just stay on its web?
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Would the web,
Big ass lizard sleeping on a web, absolutely.
but would the web support it?
I guess we have to imagine it's strong enough.
Okay. Web is home. Okay. Care for the young. Does it care for young? Does it just lay eggs and go away and then eat them later?
If it's a demon, does it have children?
Okay, so
Hmm.
does not apply. Social structure not available.
Yeah.
Does it have a language, or is it just pure creature that's there to eat things?
Hmm. That's a tough one. How do these demon creatures work, Caleb?
Yeah.
I know, I'm a resident demon expert. I mean, everything we're kind of establishing so far, it doesn't seem like it would have a kind of language. It definitely just seems like a pure instinct, like an alligator, like pure instinct predator.
Yeah.
So
Reproduction is again NA. Kind of answer that. What is the biggest threat to this thing? And you can't say nothing, although it's pretty close to nothing.
well, if it's holy water, some sort of like priests or religious groups. So
Yeah.
also
Maybe
my
they're like-
weakness.
It's being hunted by holy people, and it hates the way it smells too.
Its
Yeah,
biggest
very
weakness is
well.
itself.
Low self-esteem.
Okay, and how long does this thing live? As long as it wants? Does it have a lifespan?
Unknown.
Until it's banished
Yeah.
from the mortal plane.
Eternal, you know? Demonic.
Okay, and God, we raced through that. So I never did give Caleb. Who are you and why are you here?
Hello, I'm Caleb. I also go by Calebrity on YouTube. I'm a booktuber and aspiring indie author. I'm on a bit of a hiatus from booktube at the moment just because I moved and started a new job, so my living circumstances are kind of a wreck right now. But I am editing a book. I'm hoping it will come out later this year. Trying to carve out a niche for myself in horror fantasy. And I'm trying to frame that as horror stories in a secondary setting. So my first novella is going to be a book called Tanner's Place. It's about these two women who are just doing business in this like backwoods northern country, and they end up going down the wrong road, and they end up finding this reclusive town called Tanner's Place. And it's clear that they were brought there on purpose, and they're not really going to be able to leave, or at least it seems that way, because the main character Esha is on a hallucinogenic drug the whole time. So it's not entirely clear how much of it is actually happening. At least that's what I'm going for.
Cool.
So psychedelic horror fantasy is my thing, I guess.
So a bit of an unreliable narrator then.
Immensely unreliable. My favorite type.
Yeah.
What's your favorite horror influence?
Man, it's tough because like it's so easy to just say Stephen King because that's where I started. That's where most horror readers start. I'd say some of my favorite horror authors are Andy Davidson, specifically the book The Boatman's Daughter. Beautiful, horrific, violent book. My favorite types. And then like I'm also like I enjoy Malazan, Joe Abercrombie fantasy books with horror elements, I'd say. It's a big question. It's always a big question. Stephen Graham Jones is another of my favorite horror authors. He wrote The Only Good Indians, which is one of my favorite books ever.
Okay, and Tim, last but not least,
Your favorite Canadian, right?
tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm the I guess the resident Canadian. So I write I'll call it clean dark fantasy. So a little heavier on the violence, but relatively low on swearing. I mean, I still use some, but low on swearing and sex. Just didn't feel like writing that stuff, but I'd say pretty darn high on the violence. And I try to throw in a good amount of horror elements without it. I don't think I would classify it as horror, but there's enough in there for a creature flick fan to get some hype out of, especially the first part of my upcoming book. And and it's fantasy, so I've got dragons and a whole bunch of monsters and different creatures and cults vying for power, and different political power struggles going on. But the central premise of the world I'm trying to create is that every source of evil face can trace back to this essentially a malevolent organism, kind of a parasite or a bacteria that infects people, but it also as these bacteria, these organisms group together, they become more intelligent, more capable, and they just thrive on chaos and suffering and destruction. And so they come together. They can when they do come together, they can create monsters like the dragons or like different creatures that emerge. And because they're small and the setting is flintlock fantasy, so it's just in the gunpowder, maybe Enlightenment era level technology. So you have cannons and flintlocks and muskets, but also some medieval weaponry still being used. And and you follow a few characters who are just starting to figure out what's going on because it's a bacteria. They barely understand the level of what's going on beyond this evil mystery that seems to be able to possess people and unleash monsters and throw their whole world into chaos. And then you have this one character who gets consumed alive by those organisms and comes out the other side something else. And that character becomes the protagonist. Maybe that's not the right word, but I'll use it. The protagonist of the book series is this character who goes through a very harrowing experience and spends the rest of the first book, The Fall of Salvandrea, which will be coming out early 2025 is the hope. The moment the cover is done, it's basically ready to go. But you follow this character through this harrowing transformation and the aftermath.
So I have a question for you. This malevolent parasite, is it by any chance named Karen?
Sounds appropriate. There's still time to change it. That's not the worst idea. I could work with that.
and how many words is this monstrosity?
Well, so you know what? I'll put it this way. It's the best of both worlds, in my opinion, because when I first wrote the first part, it was intended as its own book. So I was planning on shorter chapters. So, 50,000 words was the length of the first section. And I very quickly realized, okay, that's not the best fit to market. It's not what most fantasy readers are looking for, And to be honest, I've always been torn between the two. I like something I can read in a night, but I also like longer books. So that was one I was willing to compromise on and make it a 3-part longer novel. So I extended the first part, wrote 2 more parts about equal length. So it comes to 170,000 words.
Okay, so I won't read it.
You can read the first part, see what you think.
Oh, okay.
Take a break. Take a break, come back a year later, read the second part. You're good.
So Tobias and Philip, how long are your books?
170,000 words.
That's
They really
Yeah.
are.
My benchmark is 100,000 words.
There we go.
That's what I go for.
Tobias, my man. That is perfect.
Finally, I found a group of people who appreciate crisp, fast fantasy.
Yeah.
I'm in the midst of reading like 500 to 800 page books, and I'm drowning.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair.
I find them intimidating, honestly. I'm just like, do I want to read this whole thing?
I just look at them like, this is a commitment. Am I going to make this type of commitment?
Yeah.
I'm
The
also
first books I got
53
me
and
hooked on
never married.
fantasy were short. Oh, sorry.
I'm also 53 and never married, so commitment is clearly not a thing I do.
My problem
There's
is
some excellent, really long books, so not the long form by any means. I'm sorry, go ahead, Calebrity. I cut you off.
Oh no, you're fine. I was just gonna say I'm in so many discords, and anytime some of my friends are like, "We're gonna do a buddy read of this," I'm like, "Sign me up, sign me up, sign me up!" And now I'm overcommitted, and I do it every year.
Oh, buddy reads are the most stressful thing in the world. I'm like, I'm going to do this, and I'm like, wait, I have to read again tonight?
Yeah,
I'm a relatively slow reader, so I just accept when I join a buddy read, I'm going to be done a month after everyone. That's just what happens. I'm a relatively quick writer, but when it comes to reading, I take breaks or I relax or I mood read. I start another book, and I come back to it. I don't know.
yeah.
I've never done buddy reading. I don't really know what that even is. You just you both say, hey, we're both going to read this book and then call each other and talk about it, or like how does it work?
Ish, yeah.
Yeah, more or less. Most of the time, it's like at the end of the book, you'll talk about it. But I do a lot of live streams. Not a lot, but I do live streams with some of my BookTube friends. So
There, yeah.
And they'll also have it in Discord where you can just, chapter 15, didn't see that coming, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I would just read ahead and all the comments. And so then I'd be like, well, now I don't have to read the book because.
I'm in a buddy read for the Malazan Book of the Fallen right now.
That's ambitious because those are chonkers.
They sure are. We're on the fourth book right now. It's 1,200 pages.
Jeez.
2 of the people in it have already finished. I haven't even started it. I just look at it. I'm like, I can't.
Are you enjoying that one, the series?
I've had a different experience than my BookTube friends because they've just enjoyed it overall.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of like ups and downs with it where I'm like, I freaking hate this book. And then 300 pages in, something will happen. I'm like, this is amazing. And then nothing. And then I'll hate it for 300 more pages.
I haven't started that one. I have Gardens of the Moon on my shelf, but I'm scared.
I think Gardens of the Moon was the one I most consistently enjoyed. It's also like much shorter than the others.
Right.
But then I got to the end of Memories of Ice because I was gonna quit after Memories of Ice. I was like, I can't do this series anymore. I literally thought I hated Memories of Ice until I got to the last 100 pages or so, and now it might be one of my favorite books ever. So
Wow.
There. Okay.
Emotional roller coaster is a way to put it. So
I started reading Gardens of the Moon. I'm like, I'm just not grasping. I don't have mental bandwidth between job, writing, marketing. I was like, I can't put the attention I need into this.
And that's my big critique of the series in general is like when you're reading it, you have to put like everything into it. Like to get through Memories of Ice, I had to stop doing everything else. It really takes a mental and emotional investment, and I don't have the bandwidth for that all the time.
The relative chonker I've been procrastinating on. I started it and then I stopped, and I haven't gotten back into it. But Empire of Silence, is that the right title? Christopher Rocchio?
Yeah, Christopher Rocchio.
Yeah. So, I mean, now my hang up for that might be passing because I was joking with Mike. I mean, not actually joking. I normally don't read much first person, especially first person present fantasy. I think Empire of Silence is first person past, which is a little more doable for me, but usually not. And but I started reading Becoming a Druid by Mike Bowman here. And you know what? I haven't had a complaint about I've just been enjoying it. And now, it's a faster paced, easy to read book, which I love. I that's the thing. Coming from thicker fantasy books, I need that break. And I write my own fantasy punchier because I like punchier writing, but you don't get enough of that. So this is, I can safely say I have now found a first person present tense book I can enjoy. So I'm going to start being a little more liberal with reading them.
Beautiful.
I always tell people I much prefer The Hobbit to The Lord of the Rings. Just the writing style and the accessibleness of it.
Mm.
The Lord of the Rings just gets heavy, and you're like, okay, how many stupid names does Strider have?
Mhm.
So yeah, The Hobbit is just it's easier. You don't have to, again, the bandwidth doesn't have to be there. So
I totally agree. I love The Hobbit, and I don't like the Lord of the Rings books.
I can't go that far, but
I love
It's been a
them
long
all.
time since I've gone back to either, so I can't confirm either way. But I do know like I remember rereading The Hobbit after having just reread Lord of the Rings and thinking, "Whoa!" If anything, it was almost whiplash doing it in that order, going from that dense to that laid back and casual. You know.
I love the actual story and everything about Lord of the Rings more so than the actual like words
Writing.
of the narrative. Actually
Yeah.
reading it. Like the grand story of it is absolutely amazing.
Oh, I'd
Yeah.
agree with that.
But reading it is tough, you know, and I agree that The Hobbit is amazing. The Hobbit is one of my favorites as well.
I also, I don't particularly have the nostalgic factor because I didn't read Lord of the Rings as a kid. I watched the movies. I have nostalgia for those.
Absolutely.
But I only just read Lord of the Rings completely last year. So,
Fair.
I do have nostalgia with it.
so
See, I saw Lord of the Rings in theater. Like the Fellowship came out when I was 10, and I immediately insisted on buying Lord of the Rings and reading it. So yeah, I know. Sorry, Mike.
you're talking to the person who saw the original Star Wars in theaters.
Now that had to be a moment.
I was 7.
Pretty cool.
That's everything, Mike.
So it was the greatest movie ever to a 7-year-old.
I remember when Lord of the Rings came out, I was like, this movie's going to suck. There's no way this can compare to the books. And then it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I had to admit, it was pretty good.
I have a funny story about seeing Lord of the Rings in theaters. I was like 9, 10. My dad's like real blue collar. He doesn't read. He's not in the fantasy or anything like that. And I beg him to take me to go see this movie that he knows nothing about. And then we get to the end of it, and Sam and Frodo are like sailing down the river. And then it rolls to credits, and my dad's like, "What the hell? They didn't get to the mountain. They didn't do anything." I was like, "Yeah, Dad. There's 2 more movies." I'm not kidding. My dad has never seen a movie with me since.
No.
He dropped me off at the movie theaters for the other 2. He bought me them on DVD. He supported it. He did not go with me to the movie theater, and he has not since.
Wow.
It is a spiteful commitment that he reminds me of every time he goes to the movies.
Wow.
My mom had read The Lord of the Rings, when she was younger, and so she was the one who insisted I come, and I had no idea what The Lord of the Rings was. And she just kept saying, "Oh, there's a ring and there's elves," and it was so vague. And so I'm picturing Santa's helper elves and stupid ass jewelry, and going to this dumb movie with my mom. Like, I want to go with my friends if I'm going to see a movie, and it's sure as hell not going to be a movie about Santa's elves wearing a ring. So I could not have cared less. And then I sit down and the movie starts, and you see that, prologue with, the battle at Mount Doom, and I'm freaking out. I've never been more wrong in my life. I was the happiest little 10-year-old you'd seen. And by the time we reached, the scene along the river where Aragorn, comes to Boromir's aid and fights the chief Uruk-hai. So I'm the 10-year-old kid in the back of the theater who, when Aragorn slices the head off, I'm the kid who said, "Cool!" in a voice just like that, and the whole theater broke out laughing.
Amazing.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
Oh, yeah. So I definitely have memories.
So my favorite memory is my nephews and my brother, they came to visit me, and they were, 6 and 9 years old. And I'm like, "Here's a movie for you, Jurassic Park."
Yes.
And so I put that on, and the 6-year-old, every time he would his knees would go up to his chin, and he'd just, and just like freeze, and then be like, "Oh, they survived." And the whole time I kept going, "This is where Timmy gets it. Little Timmy gets eaten here." And then, he'd get through, and my nephew'd go, "You lied, Uncle Mike." I'm like, "Well, it comes later." And just every time, like, "This is where little Timmy gets it." And and every time they just all get all nervous and they just go, Uncle Mike, you lied. I'm like, do you see a pattern here, people?
That is savage, though. I mean, Jurassic Park. They probably had nightmares for a good while.
Yeah, Jurassic Park was my favorite movie when I was like 6, 7. So
Yeah.
I watched it, I think, every day.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No, that was Star Wars for me at that age. But
So, Caleb, did you read the book?
I have read the book multiple times. I love the book. So,
Do you have a favorite out of the book and the movie?
a favorite out of the book or the movie?
Yeah.
I really enjoy both. I know that's a cop-out answer, but I think I enjoy thematically the book a lot more because it delves a lot more into like the ethics of what Hammond was doing. And Hammond is just an absolute bastard in the book, I think. Whereas like the movie's version is much more appealing. But every time I watch Jurassic Park, I'm like, the movie's so borderline flawless. It has excellent pacing, excellent writing, excellent direction. I love Jurassic Park, the movie.
Plus, the lawyer gets eaten in the movie.
Yeah, great,
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah,
But
so,
also, because I read the book way after, obviously, because I was like 7 when I watched the movie. But reading the book, the scene where Timmy's like looking over at the balcony and he sees the raptor like look up at him, and then it jumps like 2 stories up onto the balcony, and they couldn't do that in the movie because of the robotics. That freaked me out. That's a core memory reading experience. Spoilers for Jurassic Park, I guess.
the second one, I think, was the one that as a kid scared me more. And it wasn't the raptors, it wasn't the T-Rex, it was the little freaking green ones.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nope, I agree. The opening scene from that movie is stuck in my young brain for a long time too.
Yeah, that messed me up a little bit.
The book, The Lost World, is also excellent and completely different than the movie.
Fair. Yeah.
I love the Lost World book. That
It's
one's really good.
excellent. I love Michael Craig. So
Yeah, so do I. I'm a big Michael Crichton fan.
Not as many people have read it of his, but the Andromeda Strain.
mm-hmm.
I love the Andromeda Strain.
I love
For
it.
some reason, it just clicks with me, that one. And I think another author, I forget the name, took his notes and wrote a sequel to it called The Andromeda Evolution. And it's a very different style, but I think flows with it perfectly. Very good book as well.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, yeah.
I was on a Crichton reading streak there for a while. Then I read Congo, which was just kind of eh.
Yeah, I haven't read Congo.
Then I stopped. And then when the movie came out, I was like, not even going to watch the movie because I didn't like the book.
Yeah.
Another one in that same like genre is Preston and Child. I like them a lot.
Yeah.
I've read.
Or is it Lincoln and Child? I get them mixed up.
No, I think you're right. It's Preston and Child.
Preston and Child,
Because
yeah.
I've read a lot of Lee Child, but I haven't read any of the Preston and Child books. So
Their Pendergast series is good. The one Relic is really good. The movie's terrible, but the book is amazing.
During COVID, I made an absolute tear through the Jack Reacher series. I read like 8 in like a month.
Fun, yeah.
I like the Jack Reacher books a lot. So
Yeah, I've been meaning to check them out. I mean, more action thriller kind of feel to them, right?
they are, especially the first book, is surprisingly not action heavy.
Okay.
It's because Jack Reacher's like way more methodical.
So more of the investigative side, yeah.
But in Lee Child really tries to emphasize how like real the violence is. Like it's not like blockbuster style action. Like when he strangles someone, it takes a while and it's messy and so I really liked that about it. Because it just seems more grounded, but it's also ridiculous because Jack Reacher's almost superhuman in a lot of ways.
Yep.
But yeah, if you've seen the show's really good too.
Oh yeah, the show I really enjoyed. I mean, I think the first season more than the second. Now we're getting a bit off track, but yeah. Yeah, definitely the first season more. I something felt there were great moments in the second season, but it felt more stale somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't watched season 2. I was
Okay, sorry.
because I go through phases where I get a streaming service for a month and then I won't go back to it for like a year. So, Amazon Prime is coming up though.
So I meant to ask before when we were talking about long books. Has anyone read the Wheel of Time?
Yeah, whole thing. I again, I'm a normally slow reader. That I read in the span of a few months. All 14 books, I think it is.
Wow.
So a big fan of it, huh?
Yikes.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there were parts of it I definitely didn't like. Corporal punishment being one part that I feel like Robert Jordan had a weird obsession with corporal punishment. Now I've probably ruined. If you read it now, just watch how often corporal punishment comes up in this series.
Did you watch the TV series?
Yep.
Thoughts?
See, I feel like we're going to jump from here to Rings of Power, but if I'm choosing between those two adaptations, I would say Wheel of Time was better. It especially in the first season, the changes they made from the books, none of them really bothered me until the last episode. The finale was too far off, but they actually managed to redeem it in the second season. But everything else, the changes I can live with, they worked. And the show, just watching it for its own sake, the music was incredible. A lot of the acting was really good. The magic and the creatures and everything. I actually really enjoyed it.
I like the first season. I haven't seen the second one yet. That's my I'm going to do once this book that I want get out finally and published. I'm going to take vacation from writing for a whole 3 days or something. Yeah. And I have a list of all these things I'm going to do in this 3 days. It'll take me about 45 days to accomplish, but so I'll probably just end up playing computer games instead. But
if you enjoyed the first season, I think you'll enjoy the second. I think it's different, but it's like, it completes some of the arcs. It does some other really awesome stuff. It's a bit truer to, I think, the spirit of the books, but yeah, it's good. And I love the finale. The finale of season 2 to me kicked total ass. So,
and is that the end of book 2? The end of season 2?
Season 2 sort of mixes some things, but yeah, it's mostly just book 2. So it definitely ends where book 2 ends with a few little tweaks.
Because there's 10 books or something.
14.
14. There might be 14 seasons of this.
I mean, we'll see. Yeah, I think they're planning to combine at least 2 in the next season.
Gotcha.
I have a complicated up and down relationship with the Wheel of Time. So 10 years ago when I was 22, I started listening to them on audiobook. Don't recommend. I listened to the first 3 and I was like, I can't do it anymore because I got to the end of the Dragon Reborn and I was like, that was the end of the first book, mentally in my brain.
Yeah.
I was like, and then I downloaded the Shadow Rising audiobook and I saw it was 42 hours long. I was like, I can't do it.
They just get longer. There's a little dip where it gets short again, and short for Robert Jordan was 680 pages. And then they jump back up. By the time you're at the end, I think Memory of Light, the final one, is 1,100 pages, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So so I got to Shadow Rising and I just gave up. And then literally every Wheel of Time fan told me you stopped at the wrong place. Because I think is Shadow of the Rising one of the fan favorites.
Yeah. Well, most people say 6 for some reason. Something Chaos, Fires of Chaos. I think.
Fires of Chaos. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, I can totally respect when people say, no. If you tell me I have to make it 5 books or even 4 books into a series in order to really get into it, that's too much. You should have me hooked from I would say the first 20 to 50 pages. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But I think it was last year, I went back and read The Eye of the World again, actually read it. I was like, oh, hey, I like this way more the second time around and actually reading it. And in the midst of reading it, I thought, this is so slow. Random men are literally just walking down a road for 3/4 of this book. And I'm going crazy. And then at the end of that, I was like, I actually kind of like that. I kind of like that very, very slow pacing.
It works.
Yeah, post-reading. Then I just haven't read The Great Hunt yet. I have it, and I just haven't gotten to it. So I just have bbeen sidetracked by other series. And just
the other thing I'll say is the first, I think, 3 books in particular have the exact same arc. It's more like a climb. It's more like a steady but very, very slow climb, and then kind of an avalanche of action at the very, very end, and then it restarts. Next book. Right back to the bottom, slow, avalanche, and then slow, avalanche. And you start to feel like you've read the same book, which the whole major theme within the book is this wheel, right? The reincarnation sort of feel. So I kind of actually digged that I don't know how intentional it was though, because then the next few books totally could break away from that. And I don't know. I don't know how much of that was intentional or just him kind of getting the ropes for the series. But either way, yeah. If you ever get bored of the monotony of that style, it does break. Also.
So for the accountants here, have either of you read Fred the Vampire Accountant series?
No. I mean,
No. Has anybody read it?
Nope.
If you're like me and you have very low bandwidth, that is a very easy read. It's entertaining. And Drew Hayes writes it. He's about my favorite fantasy author. But highly recommend good old Fred the Vampire Accountant.
yeah, I think you told me that before, Mike. I remember that now. You check that out.
Ugh.
And Tobias, you said, okay, this is a big non sequitur, but I'm just thinking of it. You mentioned your character is a boxer of sorts, right? And I feel like I heard you say to someone else that you were in boxing at one point, right?
I was never in boxing myself.
What? Okay, I totally, yeah.
But my character is a boxer. It's kind of a strange subplot, honestly, because it's like a typical fantasy story with this character as a boxer. So people, I've got to the point where I try to bring it up because people are like, so this is like, this is like Rocky, like it's the whole workout for the fight, and I'm like, no, not really, not at all. But there is like a boxing match in each of the books.
Okay.
There's like one key fight. It's just kind of a subplot of the story. It's weird because he's like, I don't care about boxing. I'm looking for, but he always gets dragged into it through this weird circumstance. And he's like a badass boxer. But he's just an amateur fighter. But he's also just a nerd. Like he's a comic nerd. So he's nothing like Rocky.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of a unique subplot, but you would never know it until you get to it if you read the book. Because it's not like, I don't think I mentioned it in anything, just because I found people get confused and they're like, that can't be in an urban fantasy. This is a street hero story like Rocky.
Gosh. No, I love it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm biased because sorry.
No, I was just agreeing with you. I think it sounds great. So
Yeah. It sounds awesome.
Another really weird thing about it, another thing I don't mention because I'm kind of a little bit afraid about getting sued by Nintendo, honestly. But so I liked playing Nintendo when I was a young kid. So I really liked Mike Tyson's Punch Out.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a little bit, I actually would say I was obsessed with that game. There's a little bit of an influence of that game in the books, which sounds really weird. But there's like a key opponent in each of the books, and they're kind of a little bit like a little off over the top kind of caricature type of boxers. So like in the first book, the boxer's a punk based off Sid Vicious from the Sex Pistols, which that's not a character in Mike Tyson's Punch Out, right? But it's just like this over-the-top cartoony kind of character, kind of thrown in. So I have that going on for each of the three books. Just a weird thing that mostly people probably wouldn't pick up on unless they played the game. They'd be like, "Hold on, is he trying to bring Nintendo into this?" But
I think my Nintendo martial arts education came from Super Smash Bros. So I'm not sure how well I could incorporate that into my books.
Gotcha.
Well, personally, I love it. I just say I'm trying to like brand myself as like a horror writer, so I have no idea when I would ever write this book. But somewhere in my notes, I do have like WWE fantasy. I kind of just love the idea of having like an over-the-top like theatrical like combat thing that's fake in a fantasy setting.
Yeah, there you go.
Have you seen The Running Man?
I have not.
Over the top. I think it stars Schwarzenegger, and criminals get released in this course, and they have all these people trying to kill them, for justice. And he has to go and kill all the people who have weapons, and of course he has none. But that's very over the top theatrical wrestler type people. The one guy has a chainsaw, and the other guy, has an ice hook or something.
Well, that sounds great. I love Schwarzenegger movies in general. Running Man is just not one of the ones I've seen. So I think that one and Commando are the two I haven't watched.
If you start going, but wait, that doesn't make sense because then you're really overthinking it. Just enjoy it.
That's too much thought. One of my absolute favorite movies of all time is Predator. I love that movie. I watch it every year, and even as I get older, I realize that it maybe isn't high art. I absolutely love it. So
I have the weirdest combination of favorite Schwarzenegger movies. It's Predator, True Lies, and Jingle All the Way.
Jingle All the Way is a great Christmas movie.
So good.
I love that movie.
It's
I'm also
so
a
good.
big fan of Kindergarten Cop, so
I don't know.
Yeah,
if
it's underrated. Kindergarten Cop's underrated.
it is underrated. Oh man, it's so funny.
I like pretty much
Schwarzenegger
all
should have
of
done
them.
more humor. He was really funny.
It's very true. Go.
Yeah.
Predator's great, but I'm a bit of an Aliens freak. I love the Alien.
Okay.
Alien series.
So I've like big nostalgia for Predator because it was my first R-rated movie that I was definitely too young to watch. But Alien, even now, is so like again borderline flawless. It's such a good movie.
Yeah.
I love Alien. I do like Alien more than I like Aliens, but Aliens is also very, very good, borderline perfect.
Very different movies, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I love both of them. I even like some of the newer ones. I liked Prometheus, which was a mixed review, but I like how just obscure it is.
Yeah.
I love how you watch it, you're just like, what the hell was that? I love that.
I was
like
a little mid on Prometheus, but where I kind of diverge is I actually really liked Covenant a lot.
Yeah. I Covenant was amazing.
I thought
it
Covenant was a great
freaking
movie.
Yeah.
I liked it as well.
Yeah, that's some great horror. If I was gonna blame any horror, whether read or seen, for inspiring some of the horror I throw in my book, it's definitely Alien all the way. So, like especially Covenant.
You know what?
I would say Covenant was to me, just hit every note of kind of the stuff I look for.
You know what? I 100% agree. If I was going to say like anything like influenced my taste in horror more, probably just the Alien franchise.
Yeah.
And then I went through a phase where I just played a bunch of horror games that probably also had an influence. So
yeah.
On the
Throw a
video,
little Silent Hill and Alien, and I'm done.
Silent Hill 2 is a perfect game. Broken on purpose.
I like Resident Evil a lot too. It's definitely not as cinematic as Silent Hill by any means, but definitely a fun game.
I don't know. The Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes were really good and very cinematic in some spots. So I think it's funny because like Resident Evil fans are like really into the plot, and the plot is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 7 is probably one of my favorite horror games, though. It's so good and it's so disgusting.
That's where the one where you get your arm cut off towards the beginning, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it is probably one of the most disgusting, vile things I've ever witnessed in my life, and I enjoyed every moment of it.
Fair.
Okay, gentlemen, we still have to come up with a name for this species, this animal.
Oh yeah,
So true.
Now, EL was actually, paying attention to it. He came up with a name somewhere. Where'd you go?
Something
EL?
Hydra, right?
There we go.
There it is. Triticus brittle thing.
It's pretty cool.
I dig it.
yeah, I dig it a lot.
I saw that and I was like, I was going to make you guys come up with something. I was like, but I don't know if you can beat that.
No,
Yeah,
I can't.
It's
That's
pretty
it.
tough.
I'm good with it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to have a friend at work because I don't actually play D&D. He's going to make up a stat block for this creature.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I have a deal with the guy who does my cover art. I told him I'd request 2 pictures, basically covers a month, and I'm not writing anywhere near that amount. So I'm probably going to use one of those to have him draw this thing.
Oh, that's cool.
So
I'm actually very excited for this now. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
beyond
it's an
excited.
awesome creature.
So I think next time I'll do this again next month, and I'll put the picture that he draws will be the thumbnail for the next one.
Nice.
Love it.
Yeah.
So, well, this was very disappointing in that everything just went in your favor.
It was great for us.
Yeah,
I
we
told
won,
him at
right?
work, I'm like, I want a blind turtle with wings that's a carnivore. That's what I want to have to deal with. And what do we
Instead, you got a badass Tripticus.
Yep.
Ugh.
So good.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Gentlemen, this was a lot of fun. I think we're going to call it, but if you can hang on when we're out of here, because I'm going to press you all to give me a name of someone I can contact for next month.
Can do.
Sounds good.
So if there's anything else we want to throw in real quick before we go, I will throw in Steel Magnolias is the scariest movie I've ever seen.
Which one?
Steel Magnolias. Because every man in that movie has been neutered, and it's all about women going, I'm a strong woman. Yes, I am. Oh, my God. Gives me nightmares.
What about fried green tomatoes?
Yeah, I was going to say, fried green tomatoes is very similar.
I have not seen that or Thelma and Louise. I'm sure they're similar. That would be like the horror trifecta for me. And now that I've alienated half of the audience,
I think that you're probably overestimating your female audience there.
we have 5 people, it says here, watching.
Look how inclusive our staff is today.
And Colin has managed to at least pop in to say hi.
Colin.
Hey, Colin.
Colin.
My pleasure.
This is actually Colin. He's just getting his beard ready so he can be Santa come Christmas time.
Yes, Colin, I approve. Do that. Colin's one of my booktube friends.
So,
I don't think Colin and I have done a buddy read, though.
I keep saying I'm going to do a buddy read, and I never do. So,
I'll let you do it one day.
Oh, wait, no. We do Gardens of the Moon. What am I talking about? He's one of my Valentine buddy readers. I'm an idiot. Partially my fault. They're so far apart because it takes me like 4 months to do the reads. Yep. Colin,
Yeah.
I just had a brain fart. I need one with just you, Colin. That's what I'm saying.
It's okay, it's a light series.
It's breezy.
yeah. Okay.
All right, before we go, you got to remember to mention the tattoo.
Oh, yes. Thank you for mentioning that.
You're very welcome. I am very excited to see this, actually done.
If Bald&Balding should get to 500 subscribers before the end of the year, and we're at 231 now, I will actually get this tattoo.
Yes, we're going to make that happen.
Gets me every time.
So do you already have that mic? Turn around real quick.
I do not.
Okay.
Although the funny thing is, I told my friends, like, yeah, I'm going to get the tattoo right here where my hairline is. He's like, that is nowhere near your hair.
Yeah.
So
you might have to move that finger down again by the time you actually get it.
So I've decided I'm not actually going to get the guy mowing the lawn. I'm going to get a guy with a scythe who's like reaping wheat or whatever. I'm going to get that instead. But same idea.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I like it.
Yeah, I can get behind that too.
So tell all your friends, if you want to see a ridiculous tattoo that my 2 brothers have both said that don't do that, you'll bring shame on the entire family. And I'm like, well, what have you all been doing for 5 decades? So I got no worries. So anyway, thank you all for doing this, and make sure you can think of somebody to suggest perhaps for me, and we'll do this again next month.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mike.
Good.
Cheers.